And I had to get my tablet out because there's a lot of letters after their names. So I want to introduce to you Brian Schrift, CISSP and HCISSP. He's also the president of Precision Business Solutions. And this is Dr. Kevin Slonka. He's the senior systems engineer at Precision Business Solutions and the computer science professor at Penn Highlands Community College as well. So I'm going to give the floor to them. Thanks.
Thanks, Nikki. We good, Dustin? Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Again, as Nikki said, my name is Brian. This is Kevin. We're going to try not to bore you too much today. We're not going to get very technical. We like talking tech, but we like talking it so our clients can understand it. So that's hopefully what we're going to be doing here today. Also, feel free to interrupt, raise hands, yell things out. You won't distract us. You won't take us off our cue. And the most important thing that we get out of today is getting as much education as we can to you, because that's why we're all here today. So we're going to start out briefly with what is IT security. So a lot of people are going to think, ooh, we need antivirus. We need a firewall to protect us from those bad things on the internet. We need to change our password every so often. While those are all great things related to IT security, that's just a little fraction of what IT security truly is. We're going to throw up two semi-technical images up there. One is a security model, CIA, confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Again, we're not being technical here. Confidential. The goal of IT security is to keep your data safe, to keep it protected. Integrity. You don't want people accidentally deleting your data. You don't want files disappearing. You don't want things changing without your knowledge. You want to ensure the integrity of it. And lastly, availability. You want to be able to access your data. So we want your servers to stay online. We want them to be protected. We want them to be backed up. We need all those things to just start to get to IT security. At the bottom, we talk about different information security controls. So basically, think of a control as a safeguard. So these are all the different things that we put in place to help keep your data safe and secure. Whenever I talk about IT security, I talk about houses. Again, we're not talking tech here. We're going to talk about a house. So you think of your house. How do you protect your house? You lock your doors. You lock your windows. You might install an alarm system. You might put a little fence around it. We want to turn your IT systems into a castle. So the more defenses that we put in place, the more controls to protect you, to protect your data, to protect your information, the harder it is to penetrate the castle. Who's someone going to attack? Someone who leaves their door wide open, or someone who has to swim across a moat? Why we're here. The Chamber put out a survey on what kind of education small businesses want. I was glad to see that cybersecurity made the list. What I was disheartened to see is we're number 4. So I understand that all these things are very important to small business owners. Marketing, getting your name out there, getting more clients, getting very important. Social media, kind of a part of marketing again, getting you online, increasing your clients, increasing the revenue, business operations, making your business run more efficiently, improving your bottom line. Then we get into the thing that will crush your business if not done properly. If you have a breach, how do you recover from it? If you lose all your data, how do you get it back if you haven't been backing it up? If it gets hacked or breached and gets out there on the web, your reputation is damaged. And this can happen to large businesses. If you Google it, you'll see a million different articles. And it happens to small businesses. The example I used in one of the articles that's on your table is Target. So you think about Target. Everyone knows Target. Everyone probably shopped at Target. Everyone has probably heard that they got hacked a number of years ago. All of their customer information leaked, all those things. But you think, oh, Target's a big company. We're a small business. It's not going to happen to us. Well, Target was hacked through their HVAC. And there's no HVAC people in the audience. I don't want to pick on them. But their heating, ventilation, air conditioning. Their mechanical contractors. They were hacked through a small business, and that's what took down Target.
Sorry, standing in the way. So what are the consequences if you don't put in the proper care, the proper time, the proper money into cybersecurity. 3 different categories we got here. First, fines and lawsuits. That's probably the one that everybody knows the most about. $154 per record was the average that companies had to pay when they were breached, unless you're healthcare. If you're a doctor's office or a hospital, it costs them up to $363 per record. Now that's per record, per person's data that gets stolen. The amount of data that gets stolen puts these costs up into the millions that these companies have to pay when they get breached. Like Brian already said, embarrassment and reputational harm. You get hacked one time, and if you have to follow PCI, if you take credit cards, if you have to follow HIPAA, if you're healthcare, then you need to publicly disclose that you have been hacked. That crushes your reputation. You will lose clients, you will lose business, you may even have to shut your doors. And the last one, a lot of people don't think about this, but a consequence of not doing cybersecurity correctly literally is death. I'd like to bring up healthcare again. Think about what happens if somebody gets the credentials of a physician. What do those credentials give them access to? They can probably get into your electronic healthcare record system. If I can get into an electronic healthcare record system, what can I do? I can remove your medicine allergies. I can change your dosages on what people need to get. Any one of those 2 things could kill a person. Newer things like ventilators, IVs, all of the newer electronics that are in hospitals are network connected. Whether they're Wi-Fi or whether they're plugged into the wall, they're on the network. If I can get into a hospital's network, now I can access those devices and kill somebody. So death is literally something that at least healthcare people have to worry about whenever we're talking about cybersecurity. The other thing, I'm sure you've all heard the Ashley Madison website. I'm not going to go into that. If you know what it is, great. If you don't Google it. But it really destroyed people's reputations, and some of them actually committed suicide because of that. It ruined their reputation so much, they didn't want to be out there anymore. And this was a problem with cybersecurity because that website got hacked, and people's records got out to the public. So look at the date. What's today? 2016. Cybersecurity and the defenses that we have to put in place change all the time, almost every day. 20 years ago when viruses first started coming out, they were destructive. If you got a virus on a floppy disk, what did it do? It ruined your machine, you had to start over. Destruction isn't really what we're going toward today. That's not what people want. People want money today. They're going to steal your records. They're not going to ruin your computers. They're going to do things that get them a lot of money. And Brian's going to talk about some of the things that give them money in a little bit. But we just want to make the point here that security changes all the time. We are constantly updating things. You should be constantly updating things. Better firewalls, better protections, better antivirus. All those things that you have that are good today are not going to be good a year from now. They're especially not going to be good 10 years from now. So this is something that we always need to keep at the top of our mind. So what we're going to cover today, basically 3 simple categories: computer and network security, mobile security, physical security, and then just some final thoughts at the end. We'll leave a bunch of time at the end for any questions that you all had that you didn't get a chance to ask during the presentation.
So as Kevin mentioned, the threats are changing daily. What was good today might not be good tomorrow. What we recommended last year, or even last week, might not be good tomorrow. And before we really get into some of these threats, and we're just going to briefly cover them, think about all the technology you use every day. So you go out and you buy that latest iPhone, you buy that new laptop at Best Buy, you buy all this technology and you start to live on it. Your iPhone doesn't work or doesn't turn on or the battery runs out and you start kind of twitching a little bit and you're not quite sure and you try to run to the nearest power outlet. But you think about buying all this tech, but then you don't think about the threats against it. So again, when we talk about the date, a year ago, if you had an Android cell phone, Google by default did not encrypt your email. By default, if you lost that phone, we could grab it, plug it into our computer, and pull all your information off of it. They have since, by default, encrypted their phones, but again, a year ago, most likely, if you lost your Android, I could get all your stuff off of it. And now, it would probably be a little harder. The first couple things up there, viruses, spyware, malware, you've probably heard of those things. You have antivirus programs, anti-spyware programs, things like that. The thing that's very, very relevant today is crypto lock, ransomware. This is the new hot threat out there. They're going after large organizations, hospitals, small organizations, and even individuals. The objective of the CryptoLocker virus is to encrypt your data so you can't access it. Your computer's perfectly fine. It boots. It opens up Internet Explorer. It functions. But if you try to open any of your documents, your pictures, your video files, things like that, they're gone. They're encrypted. For you to then decrypt them, you have to pay the individual in Bitcoin, which is the digital untraceable currency. So if you Google now, a hospital just paid 17 grand for their password. People are paying the money because if they don't have a backup, if they don't have a plan, their business is now done. You lost all of your data. Could you function tomorrow? There's a million web browsing threats out there. Before, our policy for our clients was, hey, you know what, if your staff want to kind of surf the web on breaks or lunch hour, that's really your call, it's your property, things like that. Nowadays, we're not recommending that they do that at all because they're going out and they're checking their Gmail, or they're playing Words with Friends or some sort of game on Facebook, and they're getting infected. So now we're, again, a year ago, 2 years ago, hey, up to the employer. Now, you probably shouldn't do that anymore. Social engineering, phone, email, that is trying to get personal information out of you to help me compromise your business. So we'll get into this a little bit here with the phishing, but if I wanted to place a targeted attack against someone, I could Google them. I could find them on Facebook, I could find them on LinkedIn, I could find testimonials on websites to try to gather information to let me know more about that person so I can make a fraudulent call and try to gain information from them. We actually had a technician walk into the wrong office with a firewall. He walked up to the secretary and said, hey, I'm Mark from Precision, I'm here to replace your firewall. You've been having internet issues. She's like, oh, okay. And she led him back to the server room. He sat down, pulled up a computer, got on network, and this was the first time he'd ever been there. He had no idea. After a couple of months, he's like, ooh, I'm not at the right place. He was plugged into their network. So then we get into our email threats, all the different emails you get every day, all the junk that's out there. And there's just so many other threats that there's just not enough time in the day to go over them. But again, think about all the crap that is out there.
So Brian mentioned the phishing threats, the email threats, and a big part of today's presentation is going over a study that we recently conducted that may have affected some of you in this room, and definitely affected a lot of small businesses around this area. So don't raise your hands. To any of the questions that I ask for the rest of this presentation, do not raise your hands. Does anybody remember this email? Anybody seen this before, especially if you're a client of ours? This was an email that got sent out. This is how it will look in Microsoft Outlook. And it looks pretty real, right? People who are clients know that they get messages from the Precision BS Help Desk. They know Brian's signature. This was his exact signature. And, read what it says. We're asking them to give us their credentials because we have a new system in place. We want to help serve them better. So if we have their passwords, we can get into their system when we need to fix problems. Everything looks totally legitimate. This wasn't a real email. It did not come from our company. This was a phishing attack that we launched against pretty much anybody who had a connection to us over the past month. Go ahead to the next slide. Sorry, I keep standing in the way. There. So if you did get that email, you were a part of the phishing attack. So let me just explain real quick what we did. We wanted to simulate somebody attacking our company, somebody who wanted to get to our clients through us. So we registered a new domain, precisionbs.tech. Something anybody could do. Any of you in this room could have gone to GoDaddy, registered that domain. And it looks real, right? We're a tech company. Why would we not have precisionbs.tech as a real domain that we would use? But we didn't, and it was fake. Then we replicated the real Precision BS website. Made it look perfect. I scraped the website, downloaded all the code, everything was pixel perfect. You wouldn't have known it was a different site. Then we did some recon. We looked for all of our clients, gathered up as many email addresses as we could from as many channels as we could. Again, something anybody could have done. Just browsing the internet, like Ryan said before, testimonials, LinkedIn, websites. gathered up all the emails that we could, people who had connections to us. Then we wrote some code to deliver some emails. Again, the emails were legitimately sent emails. Our web hosting was through GoDaddy. We sent the emails through GoDaddy. GoDaddy is it's a reputable website hosting company. Nobody would have thought anything was wrong seeing an email if they were able to trace it back to GoDaddy. But the last thing, we didn't do this, but we could have destroyed your company. If you gave us your credentials, like I mentioned before with the healthcare situation, what does that give us access to? One, your email. Two, if your company allows remote access, you can access your machine from home. We could have done that. That would have put us on your network. Now that we're on your network, what else can we get to? Now that we're on your network. This is a big problem with hospitals. Get into a small physician's office. Most of the small physician's offices around here have connections back to Conemaugh. If I can get on their network, I can probably get into Conemaug's network. And then I can do some real damage. So you might not think, or maybe you didn't think before, that phishing emails were that big of a deal. But now that you know what we can do, just by simply getting your username and password, it's a pretty big deal. So we have 2 slides coming up next of a website. Maybe some of you use this bank. So go to the next slide. So here is the First Commonwealth Bank login. Go ahead and just flip back and forth between the two. So you can raise your hands if you want to for this one. Does anybody use First Commonwealth Bank in here? Anybody? Okay, so a couple people. Do you know which one of those websites is real?
On the board.
What's that?
I was on the board.
Oh, okay.
I know what you're gonna say.
But do you know which of those is real? I mean, they both look, other than the pictures, because we screenshotted them, other than pictures being different sizes, do you know which one is real? You probably don't, right? They both look very real. This is the real one, because on the real site, there is no password here. You have to go to a second screen to get to the password. But if you're just trying to log into your bank and you see a website, can you go to the other one that has the password? If you go here, looks right, has the logo, has the same text, put in your stuff, go for it. That's probably what everybody does. Our web developer did this for a couple banks around the area, just mimic the sites, just to prove how easy this is for somebody to take a website and duplicate it, and now we can trick anybody into giving us up their credentials.
Now, just a quick comment. The reason that many banks and organizations are switching to a system like this is to protect against phishing. Because if you are taken to a site, for example, if I was to send out this email and ask you to log into it, what I'm going to do, because I'm not a Nigerian hacker that's asking you to give me your bank account information because you just got an inheritance from a king, I'm going to have you put in your username and your password. You're going to click submit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to redirect you to this page. When you're redirected to this page, you're going to think that, oh, it must have just taken. Let me do it again. And it works. Because you're going from fake page to real page. That can no longer happen in a setup like this. Right now, if you put in your username, well, that's a piece of the pop, you have to click submit. Then you go to a page for your password. So that's one of the ways to help protect you against phishing.
So, what were the results of our phishing study? Very disheartening, but not unexpected. We gathered up about 1,198 emails, people who had connections to Precision Business Solutions. So that's how many emails we sent. Of those emails, we had 240 unique visitors, so 240 separate people clicked the link and visited the malicious website. Those 240 people generated 493 interactions, so whether that was clicking the link, submitting your username and password, or even clicking other links on the malicious website. We were tracking everything to make sure that we could see what happened. Of those 493 interactions, 152 people gave us their usernames and passwords. So go ahead on to the next one.
A username and password.
Yeah, so we didn't actually save your username and password. The code that we wrote got rid of them, so nothing was transmitted. If you did fall for this, don't worry, nothing was transmitted across the internet. We were just checking to see if you filled in the boxes. So don't worry about your credentials. We don't have them. They weren't sent. But if you did type in the real credentials, which 152 people filled out the boxes, so it's a pretty good assumption that we got some valid credentials in there.
The other thing we would have gotten is people thinking they were setting up a new account. So they're putting in a new username and a new password. Well, I talked to a friend of mine who was compromised, and she created a new account, and I said, well, what, did you use the same password as your computer? No, but I use the one I use on all my other online banking sites. I'm like, okay, well that's, she's like, oh, I have to change my password. So there's actually a screenshot of our text message conversation in the article, but that's just an example. It may not have been the actual password. We have no way to validate whether it was the actual login, but a lot of people recycle passwords. They kind of have that 3, 4, or 5 passwords that they generally, those are their go-to passwords. So by us having one of them, we could start to try to attack.
So those 152 different usernames and passwords, that was actually a 12.9% success rate of all the emails that we sent out. A little face palm image there. That's way higher than it should be. So go ahead on to the next slide. And here's how the breakdown looks. Who of the people that we sent this to gave up their credentials? So you can see there that healthcare institutions gave the most, with 49 people giving us usernames and passwords. Legal institutions, 18. Construction, 25 people. So of the people we sent the emails to, we know the companies they work for, we know the business areas, so that's how we could get these statistics. The percentages, the last column, that's not the total percentage. You probably noticed it doesn't add up to 100. That's the percentage of people that we sent it to. So of all of the people we sent to in healthcare, 12% of the healthcare people gave us their credentials. So looking at these percentages, you might think to yourself, oh, where's the biggest one? Legal. Legal must be the worst. They must not know anything. But that's not true. That's not how we look at these numbers. One of the things that we wanted to do with this study was actually perform real academic research to see what we could figure out about this. So after we got all this stuff in, I went through and ran the statistics on all of these numbers to see if there was a difference between anything. So we could figure out, is one business area worse than another? That would tell us that we need to train them better, that we need to fix our training so we can help these people. Good. But the statistics came back negative, so no difference between companies. Everybody can be trained the same. Even though the numbers look like some were worse than others, that's not the case. So you can't just look at numbers and make a generalization. The statistics came back and said there's no difference. So that really helps us, because now we have the data that we can modify our training on phishing and email attacks. We know that we don't need to make 30 different training sessions for every business area.
We're making sure you're still awake.
Yeah, that was Is that me? I don't think that's me. No, I'm good. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, really good. Okay, go ahead.
So, why did we fish our clients? And I want to preface this by saying our clients were probably better trained than other businesses out there. And 12.9% of them fell victim to this attack. And to be honest, we were very good with our attack. As you saw, the email looked good. The only real discernible difference was the address, support@precisionbs.tech. They used, well, we used, an email that I send out thousands and thousands of emails. I probably have to change my signature in the last decade. All of this is readily available information. So the first thing I want to say is that I would expect these numbers to be higher if we fish a general population, because we have been focusing on this for a number of years now. But ultimately, our goal was to enhance our security awareness and training, to give our clients more tools, more resources to get them better informed, better educated. We also wanted to demonstrate that small businesses are vulnerable. Our specialty is small businesses. That's pretty much all we work with. There's a misconception out there that small businesses don't have the same vulnerabilities and security risks that larger businesses do. And I almost think that's the opposite. The larger businesses are the ones that have multi-million-dollar IT budgets. Granted, they're attacked a little bit more, but everybody is attacked. So that ultimately will allow us to sit down with our clients and work with them to better improve their IT security and training. The thing I preach every time I talk to a client is baby steps. We want to make continual improvements, keep baby stepping towards better and better IT systems. Will this IT security is foundational to IT. So again, same thing, baby stepping towards better IT education. So now that we scared the heck out of you, what can we do to protect? What can you do to protect your organization? So we're going to start off with a couple things. A $50 firewall from Best Buy or Staples, that's okay for your home, that's not good for your business. Firewalls nowadays are really now considered network security appliances. So you get this nice little box, it's a firewall, and instead of just fending off some forms of attack on the internet, it provides more antivirus protection, anti-spyware protection. It can do intrusion detection, which is stopping hacking attempts. It can do content filtering, blocking people from going to bad websites. There's geo-IP filtering, which is blocking foreign access to websites. So there's all these different things that a firewall can now do to better protect your network. And that's your first line of defense. Well, other than education, that's your first line of defense. We talked about the moat, the castle. We want a castle. That's your drawbridge. That's the first thing an intruder has to get through before they get into your network. Then antivirus and anti-spyware, yes. Everyone kind of knows that you need these nowadays. That's been known for quite some time now, but how do you know it's working? How do you know it's updated? How do you know it's installed? Are there any checks? Do you get emails if it's blocked or has been unable to clean or stop something? Maintenance, just like your car. Do you take it in for regular oil changes? Do you have them rotate tires? Do you do all those other things to make sure your car performs better and safer? Yes. Exact same concept applies to your IT systems, your servers. They come out with patches, security updates, which it falls under patch management, all these different updates to your IT systems. And by applying those, you better secure your device, but you also make it more reliable. Because most likely those patches fixed something. And also, again, monitoring. We talked briefly about monitoring in terms of does your antivirus or does your firewall report whenever there's issues. Without monitoring, you don't have any baseline to compare what's good versus what my computer's slow. It's a comment we probably hear every day. Well, with monitoring, we're able to determine exactly why it's slow, or my network's slow, or my internet is slow. With proper monitoring, I could probably tell you in 2 minutes if your internet's slow because of bandwidth issues, if your ISP has an issue, or you have a computer issue.
And then some of the things that we get a lot of pushback from clients whenever we want to deploy them are these last 3 things, some of the policies. For instance, a screensaver policy, making sure people have screensavers, making sure that the screensaver locks your workstation when it kicks in, so you have to put in your password when you come back. The account lockout policy. If you type in your password wrong 3, 5 times, does your account get locked out and you have to call the help desk to get it unlocked? And the password policy. This is the big one. This is the one that everybody hates. Changing your password every 2 or 3 months. It has to be, minimum of 8 characters long. All of these other rules. We actually recommend a minimum of 14 characters long so that you can have a better password. We're going to talk about that on the next slide. But all of these policies at the computer level, again, are little things you can do to make sure that your machine is as secure as possible. If you've ever worked in larger government-oriented corporations, you probably heard the term lock before you walk. As soon as you get up from your machine, you lock it. So anybody who walks by cannot access anything. And especially the case if you're a healthcare provider. If the secretary gets up and leaves, who can just walk up to that window and look at whose ever record is sitting up on the screen? That's ridiculous. You can't do that. So we have these policies in place to prevent the simple things.
Now, before I let Kevin talk about his password policy, we love it. Just a quick comment on account lockout and systems monitoring. So if you don't have an account lockout policy in place, so what this is basically, if you type in your password X number of times incorrectly within a certain threshold, your computer is locked, your account is locked out. And then sometimes IT must unlock it for you, sometimes it'll automatically unlock for you. But if someone is attacking your server, trying to log in, whether that be logging into a remote computer, logging into your email, a lot of people can check their email via webmail on their server. If they're trying to log in every other second continuously, they're not being locked out, what happens? Well, eventually they get the right password. So between systems monitoring and an account lockout policy, your IT folks should know that that's happening. So the account lockout policy kind of puts somewhat of a halt to it because they can log in maybe 3 times and then they have to wait a minute. They can log in 3 more times, they have to wait a minute. So that stops them kind of in their tracks to a point. And then the monitoring lets the IT folks know, hey, John Doe just got locked out 15 times in a row. Well, maybe we've got a problem there we need to investigate. So again, it's not that you pick one of these things, but back to the mode example, the number of different controls or precautions you can put in place, the harder it is for your system to be compromised.
So back to the password policy, and this is something that all of you can apply to every account that you have that has a password. Your bank, your work account, whatever. If you have a password, you should be doing this. So take a look at that first password, ABC, ABC123. As far as any software manufacturer goes, even Microsoft, the rules are minimum 8 characters and 3 of the 4 different categories, uppercase, lowercase, numbers, special characters. That password, ABC, ABC123, meets the Microsoft standard. They will let you use that password. Over on the right-hand side, a tool that tells you how long it takes to crack passwords. I normally only look at this bottom one here because if you are trying to crack passwords, you're going to have the horsepower to do it. 2 minutes to crack that password. Even though it meets all the software requirements that they tell you, this is a good password. 2 minutes and it's done. So whenever we tell people you need a 14-character password at a minimum, they think of something like this. How am I going to remember 14 characters? That's ridiculous. Well, what I'm here to tell you is that this is also ridiculous. You don't need a password like this. Length is the key to password complexity. This is a perfect password. My house is the color dog. It's super long, right? 20-some characters. Well, let's think about what passwords have to do. Passwords have to do 2 things. They have to fool a person so that somebody who knows you can't guess what your password is. And they have to fool a computer so that a computer can't crack it in 2 minutes. This password is this guy right here. 4.7 trillion centuries. It would take the fastest computer on Earth to crack that password. In other words, never going to be cracked. So this is super easy for any of you to remember, right? Just think of a sentence. Think of something simple that you know, and then change something. Dog isn't a color. So, that's something that would fool a human. Nobody is going to remember that if they're trying to guess your password. So really, that's all you have to do to make really secure passwords that nobody is going to be able to break. Make something that's going to trick a person, and make something long so it tricks a computer. So whenever we go out and tell people we're going to implement this policy, 14 characters, and everybody gets mad, we like to tell them this. Just make it a sentence. Make it a sentence that doesn't make sense. And then you're good to go. It's easy to remember.
So again, one of the
Kevin,
Oh, yes.
what are your thoughts on the password keeper softwares, 1Pass, Dashlane? I mean, I think they're good because they provide long, secure passwords, but aren't they a single point of failure?
They are a single point of failure. So anybody here use LastPass or anything that generates passwords for you? It's a service that makes passwords for you. So there are services like that, and then all you have to remember is one master password to log into the LastPass service, and then it will give you the random password that it made for every website. So every website is different. That's a great methodology because every website is different. You're right, it is a single point of failure. But, it's basically up to you. If you can, with this, if you can keep some system in your head of how you're going to change the password so every website is different, don't do this, but if you were using an Amazon website, you could say, like, my house is the color Amazon. And then your password for your bank, my house is the color First National Bank. Don't do that. That's a very bad way to make passwords. But if you can think of a system in your head so the passwords are still easy for you, I would still recommend that way over a password manager that is online, because what if that site goes down? You don't remember all of those random passwords that the website stores for you, so you just lost access to all of your stuff. So there's a give and take with both ways. It depends on how much you trust those services to never go down.
So security awareness and training. Again, this was the objective of this study. This is the one phrase that we kind of put up on the slide because I like it, and I wanted to nail it word for word. So security awareness and training is the process of educating employees on computer security and proper computing practices. So again, giving the education to the people so they take that extra second or two and don't click that link or don't fall for the UPS, you've got a delivery around Christmas email when nothing's coming to your house. So again, this was the objective. Out on our website, there's going to be some resources later, but we bought the domain name, phishingourclients.com. So easy to remember. You go out there, it will take you to our educational information. We just added a new section on education on our website. It has information on the study. We're in the process of revamping a 45-minute YouTube video that we recommend to our clients. Ordering some pizza at lunch, throw it up on a TV, have the staff take the video whenever they have a little downtime, things like that. So it's very easy. We want to make it easy so more people will do that.
So part of security is also disaster recovery and having a plan for this. I'm sure some of you in the room have run into this before. Your server dies, you lose all your data, how long are you down for? There's really three parts to this that we try to push. One is having a plan. Two is the backup media, where is your stuff being backed up? And three, the mean time to recovery. So the backup plan. You need a written plan about your backups. What do you need to back up? What servers? What computers? What data on those servers? How often is it going to be backed up? Is it going to happen every day? Is it going to happen once a week? Is it going to happen every 5 minutes? What's the retention? How long is that data stored? If somebody deletes a file today and you don't realize that you need it until 2 weeks from now, can you still get it? Or did the backups rotate and you just lost all of that data? You need all of this written down in a plan, and you need to follow that plan to make sure that it happens. A part of that plan is going to be the backup media. Where does your data get backed up? Is it going to be the old style tape drive or an external USB drive that you have to plug into a server? Is it going to be some online service? There are a lot of cloud backup services, especially for home users. You can sign up for one of those to back up all of your home computer files, and that's great to have them backed up somewhere. But one of the big things that we push for our clients is you need both a backup in your building and a backup somewhere else. Because what if your building goes up in flames? Accidents happen. If you lose all of your servers, you also lost all of your data. So you need that somewhere else that you can get back to working. And that's where this last part comes in, the mean time to recovery. Part of your plan needs to be testing your backups, performing restores, see if they work, see how long it takes you to get back up and running. So if you did have a fire in your office, how long would it take you until you could get back up and running again with all of your data as if the fire never happened? You need to be able to test this because it ultimately comes down to this. For that time that you're down, how much money did you lose? How many clients did you lose because they got sick of waiting for you telling them, oh, we had a disaster, we're fixing it. Did they just go somewhere else? So you need to know what your mean time to recovery is. Is it going to be 4 hours? If your whole building is destroyed, can you be up and running in 4 hours? And you can if you have proper backups at off-site locations. One of the services we offer, we can run your servers for you. So if your building goes away, we have all your data, we turn them on, you're back and working. So maybe 4 hours, maybe less than that. But this is all stuff that you need to think of. You need to have it in a plan, you need to test that plan, because the worst thing is going to be going down and losing clients and losing money. With small businesses, that's enough to make you close your doors if you lose enough clients, and we don't want that to happen. So there also comes a time whenever you need to get rid of things. So you're done with the computer, you're upgrading, you're done with your phones. Anything that has writable data, anything that has a hard drive in it, phones count, USB sticks count.
Copiers.
Yeah, copiers. You don't think about it, but printers and copiers have hard drives in them now. And they store all the data that gets sent to it. You would never realize that, but there are hard drives in there. So whenever you get rid of them, you need to think of a couple things. First, when you delete a file, it's not really deleted. It's still on the hard drive. Anybody with the proper tools can get that data back. Same with your phones. If you get a text message on your phone and you delete it, if you give that phone to me, I can pull that text message out because it's not really gone. So what do? We sanitize. There are programs out there that will wipe hard drives time and time again, so many times that the data really is gone, and there's no way to retrieve it unless you're the NSA with an electron microscope, but nobody's paying $10,000 to do that. So there are programs you can download. There are free programs you can install on your machine that will sanitize when you delete a file instead of just moving it to the recycle bin. But you should do that when you're giving away or getting rid of any type of machine. Wipe the hard drive minimum 7 times. That's the Department of Defense recommendation. 7 times of wiping to make sure that all the data is gone. Or if you just want to get rid of it completely and you're not worried about somebody going to use it again, you're not giving it to charity or anything, destroy the hard drive. And there are actual verified methods of destroying hard drives. You know, not the picture that Brian gave me with it, 22 shooting through it.
I know we're starting to run low on time, so we're going to get through these couple slides here so we can take some questions. Mobile security. So everyone is taking their data with them, whether it's on a phone, a laptop, a USB stick.
My entire life.
Yeah, Kevin's entire life. So laptops. It's very simple about laptops. Just make sure they are encrypted. Talk to your IT folks. Just by default, encrypt everything. It just makes life better and puts you at less risk of danger.
And like Brian said before with phones, how Android devices used to not encrypt by default, now they do, now many things do. As soon as you enable a passcode on your phone, whether it's iPhone or Android, that kicks off the encryption process. So if you have a passcode, your phone is encrypted, you're good. Make sure that you do that. If you don't use a passcode on your phone, turn one on. And make it a complex password. Again, this gets into my kick with passwords and making them tough. The simple 4-digit code, not good enough.
Yeah, he talked to me about that yesterday.
Easy to crack, easy to guess. Especially, I don't know if any of you have read articles, but if you look at your phone screen, you can see the grease prints of where you always touch. Easy enough for somebody to look at that and figure out the thickest grease prints and figure out what those numbers are. Pick a complex password where you need to type the full keyboard, and then it's a lot harder for somebody to break in. Most importantly though, just like with computers and patch management, installing those updates, install the updates on your phones. When they come out, install them because they fix security holes. That's why those updates are there. They don't just put out updates to make you mad. They put them out because there are problems and they need to fix those problems. Now some of you, I know somebody that I used to work with had an Android phone on Verizon, and Verizon likes to not give you updates for like 6 months. That's a problem, but when you do get the option to install the updates on your devices. Make sure you're always updated.
Very briefly, rounding out IT security with physical security. And these are just some things you're going to run into every day. Doors, locks, alarms, generators. So we talked earlier a little bit about social engineering. One thing Kevin brought up to me was the interviewee may not just be there for a job, that could be recon for them. So there's a lot of different things you can do to physically protect your organization, and we just want to make sure we don't forget about that.
So some final thoughts to round out the presentation.
How about it? I'm good.
Oh no, go ahead, next slide. So, like Brian said a couple times, we can't cover everything with IT security in 40 minutes. It's not possible. We could have taken any one of those topics and done hour-long sessions on them. You know, here's just some words that you may have seen when talking about IT security: penetration testing, risk management, the advanced persistent threat. Like, how many of you knew that China has a military force whose sole purpose is to hack other governments? You know, we have the Army, the Navy. China has a military of hackers. That's their job. Every day, that's what they do.
We probably have some guys too.
Oh yeah, we have the NSA and we have people like that too. But I mean, think about that. Those are the threats that are out there, and they are constant, all the time. So all of these things that we went over, you know, simple, easy things you can do to protect yourself. And if you think that you're not at risk, you really are. You know, I've dug through the firewall logs of a lot of our clients. Small businesses in this area are getting hit all the time, every couple minutes, every day. It's insane how many things you don't realize are attacking you. So it might seem like we're being a little overprotective with the things that we tell you to do, but they really are necessary.
We want to open it up for questions. Fire away. We threw a lot of information at you. There's some information on your tables there. We had mentioned phishingourclients.com. This morning we published the phishing article. We have 3 variations of our phishing research study. The client-friendly version, as I like to call it, which is on your table, the one written in plain English. And then if you want to get a little more technical, you have Kevin's scaled-down version of the 55-plus pager that he cranked out. But if you want to read the 55 pager, it's on our website as well. Fire away.
Anybody see anything interesting that, anybody want to yell at us for doing this? You were mad at us?
Yes.
I'm not a plant, this is a real question, just talking about. How does like the stuff on the cloud impact the security? Like servers and online, QuickBooks and that kind of stuff, but, you know.
So the stuff on the cloud, obviously it's not in your possession. You know, it's not on your premise, so you really have to trust the company that's giving it to you. If it's through somebody like Amazon, Quicken, you know, reputable companies, then you really do just have to trust them. A lot of companies like that put out statements on what they do to protect their data. So you can read those statements and see, do I agree with this? Is this enough? But it really comes down to, it is a third party. It is out of your hands. So if you are going to use cloud services, you need to pick a cloud service that you trust, that is from a reputable dealer. You know, Connie had mentioned earlier about password software. Don't just go to some random password keeper website because it looks cool if it's not from a company that you trust. Because what are they doing with your passwords? You know, somebody like Quicken, somebody like Amazon, they're reputable companies. They're not going to do something crazy and lose billions of dollars of business. But yeah, it is a risk. But it's a risk that many companies have to take.
And at the end of the day, for a business, a lot of it is what's more cost effective. Is it more cost effective to have servers in-house that you have to maintain, support, and secure, or is it more cost effective to stick those in the cloud? Then you get into real cloud software like QuickBooks Online. We've been using QuickBooks Online since near the beginning of QuickBooks Online, and that was really hard to give my data to a website. And even now, they'll occasionally go down. But everything is moving in that direction. QuickBooks doesn't want to sell you software anymore. For accounting, they want you to use their online service. So you pay that 40, 50, 60 bucks, whatever it is, every month, and they get the recurring revenue. But again, at the end of the day, a lot of it is a business decision. Each option will have pros, cons, and risks. You just have to pick the one that's best for your organization. I broke it. Sorry, Chuck.
That's okay.
Yes.
Is it true that people always say that Apple computers are less prone to viruses than PCs, and as an Apple user, I often wonder if that's true or if there's any truth to that?
An unbiased answer, please, Dr.
Well,
Scott.
yeah.
Connie knows I'm an Apple guy. So here's the unbiased answer. There is some truth, but there is also not some truth to it.
Oh, great answer.
I know, right? There are two ways that people say that. One way is just because of the sheer number of people using devices. So if you're a hacker trying to go after people's information, you're going to go after the biggest base of users, which now is still Windows. So that's why there are many hacks and viruses and all kinds of things for Windows machines, because that's the biggest base. If you don't have a lot of time, if you want to go after the most money, you're going to go after the most people. And for the longest time, Apple users, they weren't the biggest base. They are growing now, so they are being attacked more now, and you probably have seen there are viruses, there are problems that are happening with Macs. The architecture of the Apple OS is slightly different from Windows. Again, don't raise your hands. How many of you log into your Windows machine and you're an administrator? You can install software, you can change things. It's a horrible thing to do, you shouldn't do that. Because when you're browsing the web, if you click one of those malicious links, now it can destroy your computer because you're an administrator. The way that Apple and Linux machines, basically non-Windows machines, work is that you're not by default an administrator. There's an extra level of password putting in that you need to do. So there is that slight bit of protection for Apple machines versus Windows machines, but really the amount of users that are using Apple machines now have grown so much that they're both being attacked just as much. And it's not going to be that long until they're both equally vulnerable. Anybody else? Any other questions?
Keep them coming.
Your phishing thing that went out, how would just any of us know that was a bad sign?
I mentioned earlier that we're good. If I'm gonna commit a crime, I'm not gonna do it not 110%. That's the only giveaway.
Yeah, so this email, like Brian said, we took our time, we put in all the work, because if we wanted to attack clients of Precision Business Solutions, we're gonna put in our all, and we're gonna make this perfect. And that's essentially what we did. The only one giveaway, like Brian pointed to, the .tech domain. You know, our client should have seen that and maybe thought, I've never seen an email come from precisionbs.tech. Everything has always been precisionbs.com. It's such a small thing that a lot of people missed it. But really in this email, that was the only thing.
Well, the other thing we did is we enticed people with a $100 Sheets gift card. That got people clicking right away because they wanted to win. But ultimately, at the end of the day, that tech was the only giveaway. We have since sent out a couple emails and actually published our password policy on our website for our clients that we will never ask for a password or account credentials via an email. Because some of the clients they understood it, but they still, I have a feeling when I walk in the door the next time I might get hit with like a super soaker or something, because I tricked them. And that was the objective, because if someone's going to take their time to legitimately attack you, they're going to do it the right way. You're not going to fall for the email from the Nigerian prince saying, ooh, I just have $10 billion to will to you. No one's going to fall for that. They will and did fall for this. And again, it's because we took our time, we did it completely legitimately. And it's something that unfortunately anyone can do.
Now, one thing I do is when the email comes up, if it looks something familiar, I just hover over to see what that address is, and if it doesn't look quite right, I don't pick it.
And that's a great thing to do. That's part of the education, you know, looking, because a lot of email clients will just show Precision BS Help Desk. They won't show the email it's coming from, they'll just show the name. So you need to look at the email and see, is that a weird email that I should probably be suspicious of? And the same thing with links. Before you click on this, you should probably hover over this link to see where it's taking you. But again, this took you to precisionbs.tech, you know, the same domain, so everything matches up, everything looked good. The only real thing, other than the .tech, you may have felt a little uneasy about, are they really asking me to put my username and password on the website? Like, I know they ask for it over the phone sometimes if they need something, but on a website, really? You know, it's just the little uneasy things that you need to understand to make sure that you don't click on something like this.
And the other thing is trust. We're one of those industries that people trust us. If we call them up and say, what's your username and password, they're going to give it to us. If Mark shows up at the wrong client site and says, hey, I'm the IT guy, oh, who doesn't have an internet pickup here? So there's a lot of trust with IT. And that's why we're in particular fairly vulnerable to something like this, which is why our internal security awareness and training is much more strict than our clients. Not only that, but we're having almost all of our techs get actual security certifications. But when we sent this out, 4 people called us and said, hey, did you really send out this email? I think I got 3 emails on the phone call.
Of the 1,200 emails,
Yeah,
4 people.
1,200 emails. But ultimately, that was part of why this was such a perfect example and why so many people fell for it, because there's that trust that you have with your IT people. And at the end of the day, we have everything. Not everyone realizes that, and that's one thing I often say. We have control over everything, so our safeguards have to be 10 times more than the things that we're recommending to our clients. Yes?
Okay, just going back to the first Commonwealth example. Now, I know if somebody sends something to you in a link, they can make it look like the actual website. But if I would just go to firstcommonwealth.com, is there any danger that might be, you know, like it's something, you could actually type in the link yourself and get sent to some sort of...
Unfortunately, yes.
That's not that common.
It's not that common, but it can. It's a very small thing. Normally, that's what we tell people to do. If you get a link in an email, don't click it, type it in yourself so you know you're going there, and usually that's good. But there's still that really small percentage that somebody did hack First Commonwealth Bank. So when you go to that website, it's not the real site. I wouldn't say worry about that all the time, but it is a possibility.
At the end of the day, we want you to be informed about this first group up here. That one's probably down here on our list of things to worry about, but technically, yes, it can happen.
Ashley.
Wouldn't a DNS group also do that?
Oh yeah, there are lots of, like Ryan said, that's one of the down here things. Like there are lots of different ways that it could still be bad, but those ones are a lot harder to catch.
Keep them coming, we're all day.
This is probably more of a personal, but LinkedIn, Facebook, I get friend requests from people that are in foreign countries who I have no idea. What are they trying to gain? Are they trying to hack my profile? What is their,
Yeah, think about the information you put out there. So if on your Facebook page or your LinkedIn page you have where you work, job title, maybe email address, they're really just collecting information. So if I can get your email in your company, now I can go to the company's website, see if you're listed there, see what you do, collect as much information as possible. I wish we had time, I would pull up a video. There was this one social engineer who basically broke into this one guy's life. He asked this hacker, destroy my life, try it, see what you can do to me. So she pulled up a YouTube video of baby cries to pretend like there's a baby in the back room. And she called his bank and was saying, I forgot, I'm sorry, the baby's crying, I forgot can you just help me, get into my bank account so I can do this, I gotta pay this bill today. Completely tricked the person. They reset his password, she got into his account. And all you really need is to do that little bit of recon, gather as much information about somebody as you can. So if you get to that point of security questions, you're trying to do a password reset, now you have all of this information to try and answer those security questions and gain access to somebody's bank account. So yeah, don't accept friend requests from people you don't know. Make your profiles private, that people have to accept your request before they can see things.
The other reason, when we talked about this phishing study at the beginning, one of the reasons we phished ourselves instead of something like the First Commonwealth Bank is that we didn't want FBI windbreakers showing up at our door, but ultimately, if I was to do this legitimately, I would find information of your friends on Facebook, on LinkedIn. I would find business associates. I would figure out who your local bank is. It's not that hard. We're a fairly small, well-knit community. You kind of know, okay, there's a couple main banks, F&B. Well, if I spoofed this, the local branch manager that you're used to dealing with, you're used to talking to, things like that. Technically, I can spoof cell phone numbers now, so I could call you and it would make it appear that the bank manager was calling you. So those kinds of threats do exist, and if I wanted to do this legitimately, those are the kinds of steps we would take. But yeah, that's social engineering. Yes.
just a question about the phones. Now, the apps that you can get from like Google Play Store and that sort of thing, is anybody checking those out to make sure that those are safe? Like,
Sometimes.
How do those apps wind up in like the Google Play Store, I guess is my question.
Sometimes.
Because
So
when they ask for, this needs access to like these 5 aspects of your life for it to work, those
Yeah.
always make me very nervous.
So with iTunes, with Apple devices, apps don't get approved until an Apple person checks them to make sure. I mean, things still get through, but there is that check. With Android devices, there's not that much checking going on. You can submit an app to the store and it will show up in the store. And you can read online, there are a lot of cases of malicious things being in there. We always tell people, stick to the main stores. Stick to iTunes, stick to Google Play. Don't root your phone or jailbreak your phone. That opens you up to a world of hurt. Don't go to these crazy other stores or download apps from random websites. But yeah, this is one place where I would say that Apple devices are more secure than Android for that one simple thing that there are people checking those apps as they are submitted to the store to make sure they're not malicious. But stick to the main stores.
We talked a little bit about this in our office the other week, but with regard to phones, on my iPhone, I'll access my office email, my Outlook email on my iPhone. Now, am I putting my office at risk somehow if I have a really easy passcode? I mean, there's a passcode to my phone, and then there's the password I have to put into Outlook to open my email, but actually, I guess you don't. Right? Whenever I click on Outlook on my phone, it just opens up to my email. So am I putting my firm at risk if somebody gets a hold of my phone or something, or it's just my Outlook email, but could they somehow get on our network or something?
If you had a good IT provider, they would have policies in place that would force you to put a password in place,
Well, we
would
do,
force
so
you
I
to
feel good about
encrypt it, all those different things. So with mobile devices, IT administrators can push out mobile device security policies, which require people to put in passwords, it requires a screensaver lock, so if your phone goes away for a couple moments, it'll lock and it'll make you log back in. It also forces encryption. We can also remote wipe devices. Not a lot of people know that. So when we talk to our clients as part of an acceptable use policy with their staff, we have a bring your own device policy, which pretty much means if you're going to use a personal device, we want you to be aware that, yeah, that's our data on it. We own that data, and I can wipe that data if I need to. So if you lose that personal cell phone with all of your sensitive company information on it, I can wipe that phone remotely as long as it's still online. Hopefully we can find it first and it wasn't stolen or compromised, but a lot of people may have personal photos, all this personal stuff, because there's that mix of business and personal now when it comes to a cell phone. So where do you draw that line? And without that policy, you could have a really annoyed employee. But yeah, it's a mobile risk.
Any other questions?
Well, I want to thank everyone for coming. This was great. I'm glad to see you here taking an interest in IT security because on that survey, not everybody did, and I feel that they should. So go spread the word, be our cheerleaders, and let people know that there are legitimate threats to even small businesses, and that even though you're small, it does not make you invincible or less targeted, especially if you're a client of ours, I guess.
Thanks, everybody. Who won the sheets card?
That might have annoyed them the most.
I actually did want to know if anybody asked about the Sheets card, so anybody asked if they want it? Hey, you too.
Not if they want it,
Okay.
but not everyone knows that this was phishing in. This is our first public announcement, and email blast will go out later this afternoon, and then I'm sure I'll have a chat with many clients. Something I already did, and they're like, oh, I can't believe I fell for it, and oh, you got me, I didn't do that. Yeah, you did.
Well, thank you very much for this frightening but extremely useful information, and hopefully put a lot of thoughts in people's heads about how to avoid this in the future. I'm sure you'll hang around for a little while
Oh,
if anybody
absolutely.
has any questions for you. This is part of a series that our Small Business Council is planning to do over the next several months leading up to our Small Business Expo in September, which will be September 14th at the Frank J. Pasquarello Conference Center downtown. We're hoping our next one will be in June, and that will probably be on social media and marketing, so just keep an eye out for that. In the meantime, thank you both again, and please take advantage of them while they're here. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, actually, back here. But we don't actually know. What are you going to do there? Okay, yeah.
And that's why I don't worry that my phone password is this long, because I use my so I very rarely have to type it in. Yeah, next time I see you.
We're trying to block all foreign access. We're not doing international business.
I do remember that email, but I don't think I ever tried it.
But good.